Oi, Budge!
In this episode of Budge, How to Fudge Being Human, we explore character strengths and virtues. How can you get yours assessed, and how can you use them to live a meaningful life? We hope you love this episode of Budge as much as we do, and subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, or wherever you're listening.
Taking pleasure in completing tasks. I was, kind of, you know what, I could pretend I was surprised by that, but I'm not.
I think you're much better at starting things than finishing them.
I cannot stand accountant CEOs that cost manage their businesses instead of finding creative revenue-driving ways out of difficult situations.
We feel fulfilled, we excel when we use our strengths, we feel energized, and we're massively valued by our communities when we use our strengths, because that's what they're unique to us generally.
Welcome to Budge, How to Fudge Being Human, the podcast that helps you be better at being human. As always, I'm joined by Dr. Darren Coppin.
That's your catchphrase now, isn't it? As always.
Behavioural scientist.
Hello, Paul.
Writer,
How
speaker.
are you doing? Enough about me. Let's talk about you.
I am good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, are you like you call me writer, speaker, lover.
I didn't call you lover.
Not that time, thank God. But it's getting me in all sorts of trouble. But you are also a writer, speaker, and lover, I hear.
Where'd you hear that from?
Well, just like basic literacy.
Yes. No, but you actually have a book coming out, don't you? Which we joke about.
Shut up, going on about that. This will be watched in 10 years' time, and it'll be like, I'm going to have to do 5 books.
Have you actually decided what you're calling it yet?
Yes, it's all BS.
I thought you changed your mind.
No.
Okay.
Oh, did I?
Welcome to Budge.
We were thinking about calling it Budge.
Yeah.
Is that what you're hinting at?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Subliminal messaging. The podcasts that help you be better at being human, where we talk all about a range of subjects and guests. And we've had a range of sports people and politicians and celebrities on here talking about what's all about how to be better at being human. You can jump on our YouTube and watch a load of videos, cartoons as well now, and a whole range of things that provide advice, I guess, on behavioral science around being human, whether it's around breakups, improving your attention, coping with change, midlife crisis, a whole range of things there. There's some pretty awesome stuff on there, as well as all of our podcasts, which are out every Tuesday morning on Spotify, Apple, and all of your finest podcast platforms, as well as YouTube. But a bit of a different one today, mate. Just you and me, like the old days. Talking about character strengths and virtues. Why did you want to talk about this subject?
Because I think it's the single easiest and greatest way of improving our lives.
Yep.
Leading a life well lived. And I think it's one of the greatest deficits we have in our life.
So literally this subject is core to behavioral science and how to be better at being human.
Yeah, really that subject, how to be better at being human, how to live a life well lived. I think it's such a simple thing. And I've seen people's lives turned around with this sort of discussion activity exercises.
Really?
I'm hoping to try and improve yours from the mire, the cesspool that is your life.
Yeah.
And personality, frankly, and turn that around.
Good luck. So, mate, where do we start? What are these strengths and virtues? Why should we try and understand them? How do we understand them?
Well, look, as I understand it, and as a behavioural scientist, I always go back to philosophy.
Okay.
But Aristotle, as I understand his writings, were that we live a life well lived, a life of fulfillment, by identifying what our character strengths are, our virtues, as he called them, understanding what they are, getting good at them, practicing them, getting into a state of flow doing them, and contributing those strengths to our communities. We feel fulfilled, we excel when we use our strengths, we feel energized, and we're massively valued by our communities when we use our strengths, because that's what they're unique to us generally.
I guess my only sort of counter to that would be, okay, that's the philosophers, the great Greek philosophers, of course. Oh, my favourites. Is that evidence-based, though? Is that true? Can we say that if we use our strengths, then we will lead a fulfilling life?
You can certainly say that people who smugly suggest that, if you do what you love, you don't work a day of your life, that sort of comment.
Even if that's in poverty, you can do what you love but not make any money.
Yeah, potentially, but it's what makes you feel fulfilled and happy, and it's not always about money. and whatever that brings you, and happiness, I guess, or as he called it, eudaimonia.
And we've talked about eudaimonia before on our podcast.
Yeah.
Remind me, mate, because of course I actually remember really well what this is.
But it's not just happiness like la la la.
That's how happiness looks like.
That is exactly what it looks and sounds like.
Yeah, that episode or that chapter in your book's going to be interesting.
Yeah, it took me ages to work out how to spell la la. But no, it's human flourishing. So it's just a feeling of contentment, fulfillment. And you know, I think we all recognise that just chasing after this weird happiness is kind of pointless. It makes you depressed. I think there was who was it? Was it the Sultan or a Byzantine emperor that had everything? He had 2 harems. He was the richest person in the world at the time. And he was always trying to chase happiness and judge it.
Sorry, he had 2 of everything. All he did cover then was harems.
Yeah, 2 of everything.
Harems.
Yeah. And he tried to look back on his life, and he worked out, how many days have I been happy? 14.
Whoa.
And he spent his whole life sort of trying to work out. I should try and recall the guy's name, but eudaimonia is just this sense of flourishing and doing well in life and feeling fulfilled and doing stuff that you enjoy. You enjoy a bit of social media and podcasting and learning about stuff, and I think by delving into what your strengths are, your natural character virtues and strengths, we can understand why you like that. And we can use that to motivate you more and make you feel more fulfilled by taking that approach and using those to motivate you for other things. So we'll look into this, because I know you've undertaken one of those strengths assessments that are available.
I have. So and fascinatingly, you managed to pick my lowest strength quite easily. Yeah. But we'll come to that. So why is knowing your strengths useful?
Well, there's this attributional quote by Ben Franklin and various other people, but the person we can definitely attribute this to in a world of bullshit quotes from famous people is Dan Clifton.
Sorry, all those quotes on the internet are not true?
All of them.
Well, Abraham Lincoln, everything you read on the internet isn't necessarily true?
Yes.
Okay.
And Dan Clifton is
so who's Dan Clifton?
He runs I think it's Gallup, isn't it? And they've got their own Clifton Strengths Finder, and he's written books on strengths, and he said the real tragedy of life isn't that we don't have enough strengths, it's just that we don't know what they are. And this is true. You know, I've worked with many thousands of job seekers and had them through a program.
I'm going to correct. He said that we fail to use the ones we have.
Yeah, and we don't know what they are.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, did I not add that bit in the quote? This is the problem when I don't refer to notes and use quotes. Yeah, isn't that we don't have enough strengths, it's that we fail to use the ones we have, and we don't know what our strengths are. So, yeah, it's and that was outside the quotations, but it is a problem with all these people, and you say to them, right, what are your strengths? You know, what are your virtues? Well, I don't know. And it's not just because they've, you know, might be feeling inhibited or run down, or some weirdo strangers asking them. Like if I was to say to you, what are your strengths, mate?
Well, I now know because I've done the assessment.
Yeah, exactly. And you might have a guess, but people are naturally really bad at answering that question. And there is a kind of...
This is the behavioural science where you say, but Sam, what would other people say your strengths are? And then you know them.
Yeah, that's a really good point. If you're looking at yourself from somebody else's perspective, or saying what other people will say your strengths are, then you're much better able to identify them. So when I've had people undertake strengths assessments, often they clutch hold of this printout as if it's a degree certificate, and they're over the moon with this almost passing a test, a qualification. But of course, it isn't a test; it's actually just an assessment of your strengths and character virtues. But also, it's just so interesting that often people go to the very bottom first as well.
What does that mean?
What are my least prevalent strengths? People are really almost more interested in the negative side of it.
Which is literally what I've just done.
Is it?
Well, I just said to you.
Yeah, you did.
I did, yeah.
My bottom strengths.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So look, I love them because for when I've worked with job seekers, it's great to put your strengths on a resume, because if somebody says to you, "Oh, what are your strengths?" in an interview, or "What are you going to bring to this company?" it's really hard to say, "Well, look, I'm great at this, I'm brilliant at that," and it just doesn't go down well. We like modesty and humility in people, even if what you're saying is true, because you've got to boast. But how do you do that humbly?
So you talk about your strengths as opposed to, "I'm awesome at this."
Well, if you say, "I had my strengths assessed," or "I've spoken to somebody about my strengths," then it's a third party thing. And so then you can boast from somebody else's perspective. My strengths are leadership, honesty, fairness, and appreciation of beauty and excellence. And so then it feels a lot better. But also it means that you're going into an interview forearmed and forewarned. You've got an answer ready, so it makes you overall calmer and more confident in an interview situation. But anyway, that's kind of a fabricated situation. But generally, for a day-to-day life and understanding of yourself, it's just really, really, really useful. And the thing with online assessments, and the one we've used is the viacharacter.org one.
Yeah, and I did this, and I should know, mate. I didn't even look. Who owns this? Who runs this?
Well, it's actually a charitable thing. I think it was started by Chris Peterson. It's operated by the VIA Institute, which means values in actions, because that's what Aristotle called these character strengths, values and virtues. But it's out of Cincinnati. But there's been about, 21 million people at the time of this recording have undertaken this assessment. So when you answer all of these...
6 million out.
27 million
well,
people... seamlessly. But when you answer these questions, and there's about 100 of them, they've done shorter versions, longer versions, what have you, but it takes... One
of my lowest ones was self-regulation. I only did 10 of the questions.
Immediately it comes out of the bottom. But what it's doing is it's comparing you to yourself, and how you answer in proportion to other attributes you might have, but also it's comparing you to these 27 million other human beings from every single country on earth, and where you fit with your answers. And of course, the 24 strengths aren't the only strengths that there are. There might be the strengths of timeliness isn't out of these 24. Yeah. Do you have a strength that you think wasn't on that list?
I can't think of it. I'd have to look at the list.
You can scull a beer quickly.
No, not that quick, to be honest.
Really?
It's surprisingly average at that.
Yeah, but you just sort of pour it all down your front.
Timeliness, I know you just said that, but that is, I'm paranoid about being late. I'm one of those people who always turns up early for everything and lose like an hour of my time because I'm early to it.
That's not a bad thing, but we'll look into that. Now, once you know your strengths, then you can really sort of start to see the world through a different lens, but also apply yourself differently.
Yeah, it's already really got me thinking, this assessment. It absolutely has. It absolutely has. It's also been a point of massive reflection as to those times when I was happiest or sad. So for all I asked you these questions at the start, I absolutely think now and we'll come on to mine, I'm at a point in my life where I am using those strengths. And if I look at those times when I was desperately unhappy, ignoring the relationships I was in, I wasn't using those strengths.
You didn't have the opportunity to do so.
Yeah.
Now you are a leader of a pretty big firm. Where did your leadership come?
I have no. On the assessment.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to refer to my mobile phone device.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you. Because it would have stood out if it was in the top 5 or the bottom 5.
Yeah, it wasn't, and
No,
that.
I think it was about 12th or something like that.
Yeah. So it's somewhere in the middle, which I was surprised about.
I'm not. No, and probably because of my experience, I've done this with an executive group of a big firm. Turned over hundreds of millions, if not billions of
leadership
dollars.
Was 13th.
13th. So but none of this executive group, there was about 5 or 6 of them, and there was a PA that sat in on it, none of those 6 executives had leadership in their top 5, except for the PA who had it at the top.
Wow.
And they're saying, well, this is preposterous, this is useless, this is incorrect. I'm a leader of I'm in charge of tens of thousands of people. And it's, leadership is a strength, but you can be a great leader by having other facets, other strengths near the top. So you might have something like fairness. You
Yeah.
might have something
that
like
wasn't
bravery.
There. No, that wasn't there.
You might have curiosity. Well, not in your case, but I'm just throwing these out there. So come on, everyone's probably itching to know.
I'm sure no one cares.
What were your top strengths?
So this fascinated me. Do we want to go number 5 down, or do you want to do number 1 first?
1 up.
My number 1 strength was creativity, which was thinking of novel and productive ways to conceptualize and do things, including artistic achievement, but it's not limited to that. And of course, I am not an artist in the slightest, but the creativity bit of me, this Budge thing, and what we do with our cartoons, I love that stuff. But also with Busy, I'm very fortunate that I'm surrounded by some of the most talented, amazing people in the world that sort of, in many ways, take the crazy ideas and turn them into something useful. And I look at Busy and I've been massively sort of given the ability by a board and executive team to be quite creative in what Busy does. Busy's all about changing people's lives through education, training, and employment. And I've been enabled by this awesome board and exec team to be really creative in how we do that. So I think I get that in my job these days, and I probably get that through Budge and working with you.
Yeah.
No. Oh my God, I talk too much.
No, but that's exactly it. And people think creativity is something that's purely artistic, but it's not. It's the way your brain works. It's thinking of different ways out of problems, thinking of different ways to grow something, thinking of different ways to engage with people. Somebody sets you a problem and you don't necessarily sit there with your protractor and compass and try and work it out. You can think through and come up with interesting ideas. So what you're saying was that, these great people around me that turn my crazy ideas into something tangible and manageable and real. That's a great strength as a leader. What else have you got up there?
I had hope up there. I'm always hopeful that things will get better.
Yeah, blindly optimistic, I'd call it.
Yeah, insane. Curiosity, which of course goes with creativity, is I am genuinely curious about finding different ways of doing things. I get so frustrated. There's nothing worse. I've got to be careful I don't name names here from my sector. There's nothing worse than people that want to do things the same way forever, or they'll say to you, we tried that 10 years ago, it didn't work. I can't stand that. It drives me insane. So curiosity absolutely is there.
What I also use that is you almost spat that out. I can't stand that.
Yeah.
Now what you'll find is when you have strengths, if somebody does the opposite of your strengths, it pushes your buttons.
Yeah, it does.
It makes you disproportionately annoyed and angry.
I get frustrated at lack of creativity.
Yeah.
Look, one of my passions, you will hear me talk about this. People hear me talk about this in my private life. They'll hear me talk about this on the podcast, is companies and CEOs. So I'm an accountant, my background, and I have a law degree, and I dislike both with a passion. And it's very much one of those early life career choices that I did through pragmatism, probably through my upbringing more than anything else. But I cannot stand accountant CEOs that cost manage their businesses instead of finding creative revenue driving ways out of difficult situations. So when you go through a hard time, so many companies, the first thing they go to is, we're going to reduce costs. That drives me insane. And meeting people that won't try new ways of doing things drives me insane. So building a business around finding creative revenue drivers, I love that stuff. And when I do come across the opposite, I get quite passionate about how woeful I regard those people.
Pushes your buttons.
Yeah, it does.
Gets your goat. And what you'll find is that Aristotle spoke about, when he was talking about strengths, he said that we often, ones that are top, we can overplay them. We can inappropriately overplay them. So we should aim for this golden mean, as in average of do them at a 7 or an 8, not a 10. So it's just interesting. So what are your last 2 of your top 5 strengths?
Love and humour.
Love.
What's it about love? Valuing close relationships with others, particularly those in which sharing, caring, or reciprocating. That's a really interesting one for me, because and anybody that works with me knows that I do everything in my life on trust and relationships. So I have those people that, when I build a business or build pretty much anything, I do it with relationships with people I trust. And every now and then, you get screwed over, somebody will screw you over. But I would rather build, the relationships to be successful than and get screwed over now and then than otherwise, you know?
Yeah, but it's that reciprocation side of
Yeah,
it as well.
literally.
So people think, I don't want to put on my my resume or in an interview, what are you good at? I'm good at love.
I was trying to do music towards that then, like the Barry White thing, but that didn't work.
I don't know, it came across.
Yeah.
And that's your problem, humour. You're overplaying it. You're overplaying your humour right now, your fifth strength.
Liking to laugh and tease, bringing smiles to other people, seeing the light side, making, not necessarily telling jokes. Making, not necessarily telling jokes. Okay. That would be in yours, surely.
No, I think it was 6th.
Okay.
Or 7th out of my top ones, yeah. So, but it's interesting. You can see how... Okay,
Fairness was 6th, social intelligence 7th.
Yeah, which really
Prudence
surprised
was 8th.
me.
I find prudence interesting because I am, for all that I talk about creative business building, I'm incredibly risk averse. I have to see very straight pathway to that revenue before I do it.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
So they're almost fighting against each other, those things, but also a complement, responsible growth and creative thinking and problem solving and using a lot of areas of your brain. And, and as an accountant, having those strengths of creativity and humor and hope, optimism would lead you to probably being a bent accountant, a crooked one, which is, so it's a good job you got out of it before you were caught.
Totally.
But,
yeah.
So it's fascinating.
No, but it does actually make me, I have this thing about, it sounds obvious really, straight past the revenue. You have to become creative ideas, but that creative idea has to have a very clear way to the revenue profitability.
Yeah, and a safety net generally.
Yeah,
I've heard you talk about that when talking about expansion, acquisition, that sort of thing. And you can use all of those to be a great leader and not necessarily leadership. And you can overplay them. You can be too nosy if you've got curiosity up there.
Oh, really?
You can depend too much on other people's opinions of what you're doing if love is one of your top strengths.
Oh, really?
Because you want that feedback, that reciprocation of putting stuff out there to others. So, and your creativity, I'm thinking of unique ideas or solutions, but are they crazy? That word that you use.
And that's where literally I have people I make sure have the ability to say to me, no. But again, likewise, I do have that thing that whatever the idea is.
That's what I should have said to you when you came up with the Budge idea.
Yeah. Whatever it is, it does have to have that clear path to profitability and revenue, and return on investment.
Yeah,
that
and
has to be
people,
so clear for me.
A lot of yours, humour, hope and love, they're very human things. So whatever you're doing has to involve people and the feedback. And this is like a cold reading sort of exercise. But whenever people do and go through this, their top strengths, they often go, okay, yeah, I can sort of see that. But if they're wobbly over anything, you ask somebody that works with them closely or a family member, they go, oh God, that is so you, and you overplay your strength of humour or or love. You're always needing feedback, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah.
So
the worst thing about being a mate with you, your behavioural psychologist, I literally see you looking at me some days going, oh, that's what he's thinking.
It's more like a bad smell.
Yeah. So we're going to do your strengths first?
No, I have none.
Your strengths, can I cover the top one? Is that all right? You were also creativity, the same as me.
Yeah, but I do paint and draw and that as well. But no, it's always thinking of different ways of doing things, more efficient ways.
And I think there was a couple of others that we shared as well. Curiosity had in there.
Yeah.
Social intelligence, I think, was 6th or 7th for me. Love of learning and honesty.
Yeah, and I suppose that's me always trying to find out stuff with my curiosity, but learning how to master it or making sure I'm not bullshitting by looking at academic references.
That's true, actually, because you are very, very aware of making sure that anything you say is validated.
Yeah,
and,
notwithstanding all the bullshit I do on here. No, and that's drummed into you, doing a PhD and what have you. But it's interesting. But so you can see how people complement each other by having different strengths or similar strengths. And what I love, I've done this on an organisational wide basis. And do you know how companies say these are our values?
I feel sales pitch coming here for Budge. If you're running a company, you'd like your executive team to be assessed.
Well, actually,
contact
it's not
Darren Copping.
the most important people to be assessed.
Actually, send me the email, the Budge podcast email, and I can control the money.
Shut up. There is your creative thoughts, but this is why I've got honesty high up, and you haven't. Interested.
That's why I want the people to send me the money.
Yeah. But when I've done it with a couple hundred people, you suddenly see three. I did it with a tech firm, and their three top strengths that were way out there in terms of the statistical alignment, the correlation.
Can I take a guess?
No.
Oh.
But it was Ready Tech.
Yeah, that's what I figured it was, which is your old employer.
Yeah, and they had honesty was the top one.
Really?
Honesty. Now, what the hell's that got to do with being a techie? Because most of these people, 80% were programmers and tech qualified people. But it's about doing what you promise, fulfilling promises, listening to others. It's that sort of aspect of honesty. That was what is the core value and personality almost of that company. Honesty and fairness were up there. And to be honest and fair, the most prevalent character strengths across these 27 million people so far that have undertaken this is kindness, fairness, honesty, then gratitude. But
none of those are in mine.
Yeah.
Or yours.
You're a freak.
Oh, no, you got honesty. You got honesty.
Yeah, and judgment.
Wow.
But what's nice is that humans' greatest strengths are kindness, fairness, and honesty.
Yeah. And we're probably going to do a podcast on this, aren't we? Because there's that fantastic book, Humankind, that we've talked about before, which does point to the fact that humans, despite all the nonsense that you read, we are a very kind species.
Yeah, our first driver is control so that we feel safe and our families are safe. And almost every driver isn't looking after yourself, it's looking after your family. So you think, how can people in India nearly wipe out beautiful tigers? And it's like, well, you have 2 of your 5 kids killed by a tiger, and so if you want to live with it, you will eradicate that threat. Even though you think they're beautiful and they deserve to live on this planet. So humans are naturally kind, but we look out for each other. So we're just randomly stretching while we're doing a cheerio. That was our exec producer just leaving there. So tell me what your bottom strengths were, Mr. Paul, because everyone's fascinated.
Interestingly, my bottom one is almost yours as well. Yours is the second bottom one. And I shared this with my 11-year-old daughter and my 21-year-old daughter, and you guessed it before I'd even told you. And for anyone who listens to the podcast, and for anyone that knows me will know spirituality.
Bless you.
I am probably the least spiritual person on the planet. Obviously, I'm an atheist, but at the same time, I literally don't understand spirituality. I don't. Well, way beyond just sort of religious side of things. I don't get spirituality. It just doesn't register with me whatsoever. So yeah, that was my lowest. And then my others were perseverance. So if that, I thought that was...
Give up.
Oh, yeah. How does it define perseverance?
Yeah, this would be interesting to read the official
finishing
definition.
What one starts. Oh, actually, no, I'm fed up with this podcast. Persevering the course of action in spite of obstacles, getting it out of the door, taking pleasure in completing tasks. I was, kind of, you know what? I could pretend I was surprised by that, but I'm not.
I think you're much better at starting things than finishing them.
I'm great at starting things and handing them to somebody else.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons you asked me to come into this podcast is you're self-regulating yourself.
Literally.
So that to make sure we follow through on things, because if there's the two of us doing it, it motivates each other to
because my other one, of course, was self-regulation. My third lowest, and self-regulation being regulating what one feels and does, being disciplined, controlling one's appetites and emotions, was my third lowest, which fascinating.
It was my lowest, and basically it's humans' lowest. It's the
Oh, is it?
least of those 24 strengths that are.
So I am human in some way then.
Yeah, we're terrible at self-regulation. Hence, we've done a number of podcasts on self-control
And habits and
habits.
break.
Yeah.
Oh, so the fact that that's down there low, that's quite normal for a human then.
Yeah, for once in your life, there is something normal about you.
Boom. Nailed it.
But often people just go straight to the bottom rather than looking at the top, and that's our negativity bias.
Yeah, yeah.
I knew it, rather than celebrating what is uniquely.
I love the fact
Good
that
about it.
I'm creative. Do you know what was funny though? The other low ones for me, if you go bottom 5, zest, approaching life with excitement and energy. It's quite low.
Just before this podcast, you said, "Should we do this one?"
Yeah, we've nearly finished. That's enough, isn't it? And forgiving those who've done wrong, accepting others' shortcomings, giving people a second chance. I was surprised by that. I was actually surprised by that. Although, despite the relationship thing, if someone screws me over, I kind of just go, oh, yeah, done, we're finished. But actually, no, if somebody does the wrong thing by me, I'm not great. If somebody just isn't doing very well generally, I'm very kind in that situation.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Even if that's at work or something, I'm very supportive in that.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, if they do wrong by me, I suppose, yeah. Yeah.
Interesting. Now,
I think I just turned into a mafioso boss then, didn't I?
yeah,
If they
I
do
was a
wrong
little
by
bit
me.
afraid.
Yeah.
I was just thinking, have I done anything like
Yeah.
that? But
We're going to upload this podcast later, Darren.
But what's interesting is that these things are what motivate you. So if I want to motivate you or a member of staff, then I give you tasks or I give you opportunities to explore and exploit those top strengths. Like what would motivate you if you've got love, curiosity, hope? It's probably going out for a night out with a few friends you know and a few you don't, and just having a laugh.
Yeah.
Potentially,
Yeah.
that would be more motivating than offering you $20. So
I don't know why it's so
you're
funny.
cheap.
Yeah,
But you can
$20.
find out what is it that's going to motivate my staff to sort of be interested, or my colleagues or my family, and to continue. So when you're out with family or friends, or if you're at a bar, you can't say to them, "Oh, right, just do this quick 10-minute survey online." And then we'll work out what you're
the
good
world's
at.
worst chat line. Hey, fancy doing a 10-minute survey online?
Quick survey. Do you have chlamydia? Question number 4. Yes, I'm a koala, obviously.
Do you know, I found out the other day, do you know where leprosy predominantly comes from now for humans?
Oh, no. And I love this because it's a mismatched disease of domestication, usually, these jumping from animals to humans.
Yeah.
So what, from apes?
Yeah, close. Armadillos.
Armadillos. So South America. They only occur in South America, don't they, armadillos? So it must have come over. Hang on a minute, because there were lepers in Jesus' time.
And but I think that's where it's most prevalent now. We're gonna have to Google this one, mate.
Well, that's
and I'll have to put some
interesting,
in the
though,
comments.
because that's another backup that, there was intercontinental contact in prehistory.
No, I think it comes from other places. It's just the most prevalent way now.
Okay,
is
the most
from
prevalent.
Armadillos.
Ah,
So next time you see an armadillo,
keep away,
Yeah.
and pick up its leg as it walks by. Anyway, so what you can do to find out what people's strengths are is ask a simple question and then ask why. So I'm going to say to you, Paul,
so that feels like one of those things I just made up.
chlamydia. No. What are you most looking forward to in the next few weeks?
Oh wow, where are we? We've just had Easter. I'm not looking forward to anything. I actually don't have a lot coming up. I'm just trying to think.
All right.
I'm looking forward to going to jail next week.
Yes, great.
I'm doing a prison visit, and I find that fascinating because we do a lot of work trying to help ex-offenders.
Why would you find that fascinating?
I find the whole thing interesting, really interesting. But aside from work stuff, I actually don't have too much lined up in the next few months. But I am going on a cruise later on in the year, which I'm really looking forward to because it's one of those rare occasions I'll have all my kids together, plus the better half and hers. So it should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah,
Should be
and
a
I get to
laugh.
go on a zip line, and I should get to go scuba diving. So it should be a lot of fun.
One of your old passions and
Absolutely.
professions. Well, look,
Scuba zip line.
but what you've said is weird. I'm looking forward to going to prison.
Yeah.
And doing a prison visit. I saw those with trepidation when I used to work and supporting offenders and
Yeah.
just prior to release offenders and ex-offenders. But I always found them fascinating and interesting and very human. But what we're looking at there is your curiosity, your hope and optimism, The going away isn't, I'm going away to relax and just find myself or read a book. You're going away because you're with a load of people and another person and their people, and you're all together. That's your love and reciprocation.
And with the exception of yourself, of course, the people who I love most in the world.
Yeah, with the exception of myself.
Sorry, Des.
Just don't you forget it. But you can see, you start to identify probably 4 of your top 5 with a one sentence, what you're looking forward to, or what did you most enjoy?
What are you looking forward to most coming up?
Oh, now I'm going to, because I know this, I'm looking forward to painting and finding out about something and learning about something new.
Painting would be a love of learning.
Interpreting people with social
What are you least looking forward to in the coming months?
Regulating myself, losing weight.
I know. We've both been on that journey since we started this podcast, I think, and we've got nowhere collectively.
Nowhere. My sister's been over for 3 weeks. It's like, oh, I'll take you here. Let's eat there. Let's try this. Oh, it's Easter. Terrible. Self-regulation out the window. But having that chat is, I can see about you. Oh, you have these strengths, and often it takes somebody else. You're just saying something really basic. Oh, I'm looking forward to going to prison, going on a cruise with this lot. Why? Your strengths rise to the top. It's how you interpret the world around you and how you get energy and fulfillment from the world around you. So use your strengths, identify them, know what they are, because using those and becoming great at using them every day in your life and giving back to your community with those virtues that you have and your particular strengths leads you to being fulfilled and living a life well lived, basically.
And that feels like a really good point to end this podcast,
It
mate.
is.
Shall I do another plug that people can engage you to do this for them? We don't need to do that, do we?
No.
It's reverse psychology.
I hate people.
Okay, yeah, true. I'll do it because I love everyone. We hope you enjoy this podcast, and I get the key takeaway is that, isn't it, that understand your strengths to live a fulfilled life.
Yeah, and those around you, get them to do it, and that they feel valued.
Yeah.
Actually,
I'll get the team at
worthy.
The Busy Group. Australia's the world's greatest apprenticeship education training employment company. I might get everyone to do it. That'd be cool.
Yeah, the world's biggest and greatest in our professional opinion.
Not validated. It might be. It is. It's awesome. It's the best company ever. We hope you love this podcast as much. We've had a lot of fun doing it, and also a lot of fun doing these this assessment. So seriously, if you get the chance, what's the website? Via VIA, then character.org, and it's completely free. You can get a more detailed printout and interpretation for a few bucks, but it's a charitable foundation, and they're great people that work there. Ryan Niemiec and his team. And we're not even on commission, are we?
No. Well, it's free.
Yeah.
We'd owe them money. So no, but it's
Awkward.
just great.
See why we're so good at business.
But to see the change in a lot of long-term unemployed people that have undertaken this with me, tens of thousands now. I think Australia's the second biggest country that uses this, and that's because we've used it with job
despite
seekers.
our incredibly low population.
Yeah, and it's just good to see how that suddenly they sit up straighter and feel, God, I've got something to offer the world. I'm not a worthless piece of crap. Actually, I've got these values, and I've got something to offer.
Thank you, sir. As always, been an absolute joy recording this podcast. It's been a lot of fun. We hope you love the podcast too. If you have, chuck us a like and a follow and a subscribe on YouTube, Budge at Budge Podcast, Budge How to Fudge Being Human. You can also check us out on Spotify and Apple and all of your good, best
podcast platforms.
You can also connect with us in our group on Facebook.
We always forget Facebook.
Yeah.
The greatest, weirdest chat community.
Yeah. And as well as the podcast now, we do have a stack of other videos, like I said, on the
Budge Bites.
YouTube, Budge Bites, which gives you some fantastic advice on how to use behavioral science to be better at being human. Thanks for watching. See you 7 a.m. Tuesday, Australian Eastern Standard Time, every week for the next episode of Budge, How to Fudge Being Human.
Oi, Budge!